So I'm going to talk about the things that I've noticed about my boosted board versus my Genesis board. I've had both of them for about the same amount of time, and they're both really fun. This is really something if you're kind of weighing the options, if you're considering boosted over Genesis. And these are the main things I've noticed, having owned both for about the same amount of time. The first thing I noticed, the wheels are softer on the boosted, so that makes for a more comfortable ride. So riding on the street or sidewalks, if you're not going to ride somewhere that's really smooth, the boosted definitely is better for that. There's smoother acceleration. Just the remote on the boosted is a lot smoother than it is on the Genesis. The forward and reverse controls are a lot more seamless on the boosted than the Genesis. Is on the Genesis where you have to push a button to put it into the reverse gear, and then the throttle works as a pretty typical throttle. Overall, the remote on the boosted feels better made. It feels like you have something of quality or a value in your hand versus the Genesis, where it still works. It just doesn't. It's just very lightweight, kind of very small. Regenerative braking. That's, if you have the motor engaged and you're rolling, it will trickle charge the battery, whereas the Genesis doesn't have that feature. The boosted is lighter and it's easier to carry for transport, but it's also longer, so take that for however you want to take it. I like how the boosted deck flexes. It's a little more forgiving and it just makes for a much smoother ride versus the Genesis. Deck is a little stiffer, doesn't flex as much. Flexes a little bit, but not as much. Doesn't feel as comfortable with the bamboo deck of the boosted. The boosted has more torque from a dig or from a stop, or even from just rolling. It just has more torque, and it comes on smoother than it does on the Genesis. The feel of the boosted feels a lot better with the deck flexing, the softer wheels, the torque. Just feels a lot more connected once you really get the hang of it. It just feels more like surfing or like you're flowing, just much more than I ever felt with the Genesis. Like I feel a little more confident with the boosted when you're leaning into it than I do with the Genesis. Now, having said all that, the battery life on the Genesis is better than the boosted. The boosted will take me up hills that the Genesis can't, but the Genesis battery lasts longer. That makes sense. Now that doesn't mean that the Genesis is a bad board. It's a completely functional board and it'll do what you need it to do. But if you can, or if you find yourself in the position where you can get a boosted board, then I definitely recommend getting a boosted. But I think buying it brand new for $1,500 is still too much. Is it worth it? No. But you'll pay it because you'll want it. But anyways, with all that, I mentioned that I started with a version 1. I got it off eBay for about $700. But then I got a sickness and I found a version 2 on eBay, which was brand new from an Amazon Prime Day. And somebody was just reselling them, so I got this one for about $1,300 brand new. If you can't get a boosted, then get it. But if you only have the resources to get a Genesis, then that's completely fine too. It's just as fun, and once you get the hang of it, it'll serve you just fine. Anyways, that's it. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this is helpful to anyone out there. Bye.